Hello and welcome to the Overly Animated Podcast, where we take animation seriously. We talk animated shows and movies here, especially Miraculous Ladybug and The Owl House. Find everything about us at overlyanimated.com. I'm your host, Dylan Hysen, and today I'm joined by Delaney Stovall.
Hey, y'all.
And Aly Martin.
Hello.
Today we will be switching things up a little bit and talking about the recent news of an Aang and Friends movie that is going to be the first movie or entry from the somewhat recently announced Avatar Studios. That news dropped last month at some point. And I have with me two fellow From the Spirit World alumni who will be, we all deeply love and are emotionally invested in everything Avatar. And is it even now? It's still
Oh yes,
sometimes
unfortunate. But yeah. So we're if you're not familiar, we the podcast before this one was that I hosted and Delaney and Aly were on was just on Avatar and then Korra, and so now of course we're very interested in news that there will be more animated Avatar content. So we're gonna talk all about that. The Aang movie, speculate what it's gonna be about, speculate about Avatar Studios in general. Maybe talk about how we're feeling about it as, people who this was a big part of our lives. I think that's pretty interesting. Well, that we'll discuss, if it's less so. Or, I assume less so. Aly might be the most still invested, but we'll see. We'll talk about it. How it being an Aang movie relates to all that. So we'll get to all this. You can find the old From the Spirit World podcast if you search for the feed somewhere. That's still up. More relevantly,
if you can.
It's there. I'm keeping it alive. But more relevantly, last year the three of us here did a stream once Avatar Studios was announced.
Oh, I forgot about that.
It's already been a year.
I know, it's been over a year, and still we're very far off from the movie. But I will link that YouTube video in the podcast description here if you want to hear our initial reactions to Avatar Studios. I just went to a random time and I heard myself saying Aang after Avatar and before Korra is my guess as to what the movie is about. So we nailed this in that video, yeah. Even though I did not remember that we said that. We instantly got to where this movie is going, or maybe they listen and that's where we're doing this.
Right, that's what it is.
No, I think this was the obvious thing to do, but we'll talk about this Aang, presumably post-Avatar pre-Korra movie. So let's get into this here. So the news is the first Avatar Studios movie is about Aang and Friends, as Janet announced in a video, I think, from Comic-Con.
Are we really not going to call it the gang movie, though?
Right, so I guess gang is never an official term, like gang with two A's.
It kind of is. Sokka says it at one point, but it doesn't stick.
Oh, okay.
He says the Aang gang.
Aang gang. But is it said with two A's, like Aang with a G?
I don't think the subtitles put it in two A's, but they should.
Yeah, I think gang movie. I probably won't put gang movie in the podcast title just because I don't know if people know what that means. But I feel like it's obvious.
Hardcore fans will know.
Yeah, I mean, it's also it's Aang's in there. You can figure it out. Lauren Montgomery will be directing this movie. She was a storyboard artist on Avatar and was a producer on Korra. So very, very exciting to have her in the fold in Avatar Studios and even directing this movie. There will be 3 movies total, and we do not know what the next 2 will be about. There's a fan account claiming some things. We'll talk more about that. But officially announced that we're getting this Aang and Friends movie with Lauren Montgomery directing, kind of all we know. So we're going to talk about that first, and we can also talk about other things we know about Avatar Studios later. But Delaney, what are you feeling right now about, your reaction at the time, and what are you feeling at the moment about an Aang and Friends movie coming up?
So at first, when it was announced, I don't think I really felt like anything other than like, oh, news, and then also being like, I forgot this was a thing, because about it in the back of your head, like kind of like what Aly was saying, was like, it's been a year, like it's been a whole year since they announced Avatar Studios, and then now it's like, oh, here's actually some information about the first movie. This is gonna sound bad, but I'm like more excited than I originally would have thought I'd be.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, no, it is a good thing, but it's like it kind of sounds bad in that like I was expecting to like not be excited. I don't know. It's one of those like, you know, sometimes you're like, oh, they're bringing this back, or you know, such a big part, and then also like when you have like I don't know, like your interests change over time. But no, I'm actually really excited for to go back into the world of Avatar, and then I'm actually really excited that it's going to be Aang. And like, oh, I miss the like bald little weirdo like so much. And
Bald little weirdo.
Bald little weirdo. I don't know. Like, it's a comforting world. And obviously, won't get into it too much here, but there is another world that I am no longer welcome in and don't have anything to do with. So I'm very like, this is nice. Like, I'm excited to have Avatar.
Another world that you're not welcome in. Interesting. Well,
and also that it's animated. Like I won't lie, I don't really have a lot of interest in the live action Avatar stuff. That's also has like its own like stuff with it. So I'm like, yes, animation, let's go.
Yes, everything will be animated at Avatar Studios.
Oh, thank God.
There's
I won't watch the live action, but like
I will.
It's like
we'll come back to the live action show.
disdain,
There's still the
whatever.
live action Netflix show coming up. I'll probably mention it for a later topic, but I think for we're really not caring about that and focusing on the animated content. Yeah, that show will come out first for sure. But hopefully this movie will not be too long. Aly, how are you feeling about the prospect of this Aang movie coming out?
So, I mean, I think what I'm going to have to say is worse than Delaney. When Avatar Studios was announced, I was more excited at the prospect of like new content in general than I am for this gang movie. Because, I mean, we've seen so much of them, and I think I would feel the same, maybe less so just because I'm biased if we were about to get a Korra movie right out of the gate. But it makes sense that it's happening this way. Like, we had a long break from Aang's story and everybody, all his friends. So it will be great to see them again. In general, I'm very happy that Avatar Studios exists, and I am excited for this movie and more content because, I mean, like Delaney said, interests do like come and go, but for me, Avatar is forever. Like literally, people come and go. Avatar is forever. Like when Avatar ended, I was like, oh God, what am I going to do with my life? And then Korra happened, and then it ended, and I was like, okay, now really, what am I going to do with my life? But it's nice to like be able to look forward to more content from like my favorite franchise of all time every like 10-ish years, especially going into my 30s.
Surprise you.
It is. I mean, it did come as a shock, but I was very like, I was on the floor when I was like, there's a whole studio that's going to revolve around the universe. And I wanted this to happen, something like this for a long time. Like, I'm surprised Nick didn't cash in on this franchise earlier because it's like a golden goose to me. And I'm sure a lot of other people. But generally I'm excited. I don't know, apart from like the work on Korra and Voltron that Lauren Montgomery did, but I am excited that she's on the crew because she just is an alumni. So that's good news, hopefully.
Did she storyboard on Voltron?
I think she was like the showrunner,
Voltron,
right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay. I feel bad that I.
Yeah,
I
mean
remember
that's a lot of things. Avatar, Voltron, Korra, and yeah, she's
she
super,
did
super
Avatar
talented.
stuff
So
and a lot of Justice League stuff that I haven't seen.
Oh, okay.
yeah. Yeah, we're hyped for the next iteration of Voltron, of course. That's our reaction to this. Just kidding.
Is that going to be part of Avatar Studios?
I mean, look, at the time we called Voltron the Korra 2.0. So much of the crew went on to...
Who is we? I didn't do that.
Well, we didn't even... That was what we knew it as before they announced even what it was. We just knew that a lot of the Korra crew was moving to
and it was Studio
Voltron.
Mirror.
And Studio Mirror, of course, yeah. Anyway, yeah. As for myself, I mean, I think if people are not aware, like I assume this is true of all of us three people who like Avatar and Korra is like the biggest like fandom of our lives.
Like it.
And we were at war, if not still are so emotionally invested. So I think that's vital context.
I thought you were saying we were at war, like shipping war.
We were at war during Avatar, that is true. That was a big component. And I guess during Korra, unfortunately.
I don't think us three are at war.
No.
We were all on the same page on ships, yeah. Maybe if there's a new show, there can be a
Oh
new
no,
shipping war.
it's
No.
not gonna happen.
Why
Shipping
would
wars
there
are
be?
always gonna happen.
Oh,
But yeah, I think that's important context as to like where we're coming from here. I've grown more excited at the prospect of an Aang movie. At first, it was announced, and I was, of course, I'm like excited, but I didn't feel that much about it, which is maybe kind of interesting. But it's not 10 years ago when I was so into specifically Aang and Avatar and stuff. So, I think it took me a little bit to like tap into my feelings about Aang, specifically Aang, a character who means so much to me, such an influential person in my life growing up, and I think one of the biggest influences shaping who I am. And like I said, Aang is so deeply important to me. And once I started like kind of tapping into that space a little more, I think now I'm like feeling more invested.
Yeah.
So it took a little bit, because I think my first reaction was like the thing that I would be most excited about. In some ways, this is going to be blasphemous, but in some ways, it's intuitive. I would be much more excited about a new Avatar show.
Dude, I was gonna bring that up later. This is what I've been saying for the whole time. Like,
Right.
I don't
Like, I
even
think
want another Korra movie or a Kyoshi movie.
We might
Give us
even all agree on this, but it's kind of weird because it's like we loved Avatar, so shouldn't we want the Avatar movie? But
like
I
the
would,
whole universe, not just limited to those characters we've seen already.
yeah. I the next Avatar after Korra, a show about that, which I assume will be coming. That's what's going to get me like potentially like fandom invested in like like that headspace. This Aang movie, I'm not gonna like.
Well, it's like it's the wondering, like, because for us, I mean, which I think that's why this is an interesting space to be in, and for the stories. But the thing is, like, we've had comics, we have books, and also even in the world building of Avatar, not even including Korra, we know so much about the world of Avatar during Aang's time, before Aang's time, and then once we include Korra, like we know everything that's happened. Not everything, but like we know the big important moments. Which I do like delving into details, but I mean, we want more. Like, new characters, new ideas. I mean, everything they brought to Avatar in Korra with new bending techniques. It's like, what could we do more? Especially, we've talked about this a lot, like a modern Avatar. Like,
Yes.
Yeah.
we go with the
which we'll talk about again, I think. But yeah, and another factor is that there's a lot of Aang post Avatar content through comics, and I'm not super interested in that, honestly. So that maybe influences a little bit. But
the problem is I want all of them, and I have to read all of them because I just
have you read all of them?
Not all
I
of them.
definitely haven't.
They're still coming out too.
Yeah, there's well, that's the other thing. There's like a bunch of them, and also I'm at this point now in my life where I'm like, oh my god, I'm not buying 5 of these and going to 80,000 bookstores. I'm like, I want.
But also, are all of them canon, or there's some like spin-offs that are not?
So I have information. Yeah, so I have information from all sources. I try to listen to every Mike and Brian interview, of course, and Mike and Brian on the Comic-Con Metapod got into a lot of stuff about Avatar Studios. Yes, everything is canon. That is
even the Katara pirate story.
I believe all the comics are canon. All the and that will be factored into the story direction for Avatar Studios.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah, I was curious because that was something I had a moment of. I was like, would they retcon the comics? Which I wouldn't be upset about necessarily. I was just curious, like as a thought.
I would be surprised.
Basically, Mike was like, "There's not enough stuff out there that we have to be super worried about this. We're just going to treat everything as the canon." And
they wrote on a couple of them.
Yeah.
Mike wrote on a couple of them.
Yeah, specifically Mike, and he also said that they have story people now to keep track of all this too. So it's not like they themselves need to do that.
That's why they're like, we don't care. We have a book. It's who cares. They're like, other people do this now.
Yeah, well, we can talk about how involved they will be. I assume still.
That's also important.
Very heavily. But back to the reaction. I think once I started thinking about what this might entail in Aang's life, the prospect of an Aang who is who is more relatable to me, like more around my age, that I started getting exciting about. Even if it's just like 21-year-old Aang, which I'm a fair amount older than that now. I'm still going to relate more to that than 13-year-old Aang.
Yes.
And especially if it's not Aang with children. As a parent, that's just me personally. I'm not going to relate as much to that. Other people might.
Still, though.
But the prospect of anytime Aang after the where the comics where he's like 15 or something up until before he's a parent, so sometime like 15 to 35, which I think is a lock for when this movie will take place, that's going to be super exciting to me. So I'm really interested. The Aang before we see in Korra, just because there's a lot of like parent baggage stuff that I remember, that we get into with in Korra a little bit. So I love the idea of seeing Aang before that, but after Avatar. So that is really exciting to me.
I want to see them in their 20s and 30s also. That seems like a good range.
Yeah.
Not just because that's where we are in our lives, but it just makes sense.
Well, and it's also kind of like, I mean, when you think about it, like
from the comics, like if it takes off where they left off or will leave off on the latest one, it seems like that's around that time, maybe.
Yeah.
So
it makes sense too if they're creating this universe around Avatar, then we kind of want to chart their lives.
Right. Yeah. And you can't
let's keep speculating what it's about. So I've not read all the comics. I looked on the Avatar wiki, and they claim that the Aang is still like 15 in the latest comic. So
that does seem right. Like it really, I know it takes off like literally from where the show ends, and it goes pretty slowly through a bunch of stuff. It's just
so much stuff is happening.
It's so much stuff.
Yeah.
Not that it's unimportant. It's just like, okay, what's happening?
Like maybe he's 16 at the oldest, So presumably.
But does that make Sokka 9 to who's the oldest? Sokka and Zuko, they're like 19, 20.
Yeah.
That's about right-ish.
So you have to assume that the movie will be after the comics. Oh, so here's another thing from the Comic-Con Metapod. Mike said no adaptations. So,
okay, but of anything or just relating to Aang?
No, anything adaptations, he said, right? For now.
So
I do appreciate that, but it also makes me a little sad, but it's fine.
Yeah, relevant in terms of no Kyoshi book adaptation, but we'll come back to that.
Oh, now I'm sad again.
But we're not adapting the comics, so it'll be probably after the comics, and
that's what I want.
The question: so how much after? Is Aang going to be 16 in the movie? Is he going to be 20? Could he even be as old as 30?
The real question is, are they going to do the previously on Avatar to recap everything that happens in the comics for the people who haven't read them?
Well,
I don't think so. I don't think the comics will probably matter that much.
I will say,
at least Zuko's should matter, and
I would say
getting a comic.
The only thing the comics would matter would be we're talking about Republic City and the colonies, because that's what the whole conflict with the Earth Kingdom is, and that's what some of the comics are. So,
but also for character purposes, Azula is getting her own comic now, and that should be important. Maybe.
Yeah,
it also depends. They could do especially with I would assume if this was me, because I have so much experience running shows, but. If you're okay, we're going to have a movie, we need to get people back into Avatar, and we're going to bring people who have been watching everything and consuming all the media on Earth to come see this movie. It would probably make the most sense to do it, separated enough from the comics so we don't have to actively talk about, recent events, but then also far enough away from, Yakone, that kind of stuff in Korra. So, I could see there being, almost a minor conflict that the movie is about.
Yeah. I'm wondering how they're going to get people who haven't read the comics to see this. I'm assuming they've watched Avatar, but not.
I'm sure the movie will have an accessible entry point where you just have to have seen Avatar. I really don't think the comics will really matter.
I don't think you have to watch Avatar. They can just do the water, earth, fire
probably,
at the beginning, and you're we're good.
Oh, yeah, they could do a recap like that. That's true.
They could do set it up. The first half of the recap Tenzin does at the beginning of Korra, just explain the 100-year war.
Yeah, it's gonna be something like
that.
But
stuff with
plus add some more stuff. Just some basic context of what the world is like.
Just be the Ember Island players. That's what's
That's
the movie.
Oh my god. But I don't know. Spoilers for the comics, I guess. Zuko's mom, not that she's not important, but shouldn't that at least be established for
I feel like that's more of an answer to what happens in Avatar than a necessary thing to know.
That's true, yeah. I guess she could just
also
make a cameo.
Also, it's an answer, but it doesn't really have any impact on the overall.
Right, it doesn't matter what happens. I feel Azula actually feels like she met because she's locked up at the end of Avatar.
Yeah.
So understanding why she's free, if that is what is happening, I think maybe matters more.
If anything, it will be dialogue between everybody, but I don't know how to feel about that since there's so much that happens in the comics.
Also, the thing is with the comics, they're so is it going to be so this is what I'm envisioning, it's because again with the comics and everyone is so spread out, honestly after the war everyone's we have to go do 85 different things and none of us
exactly.
And so it's like there has to be some sort of weird conflict.
Oh, so do we think that it's going to be a thing where they're in different places at the beginning of the movie, and then it's like we have to go get the gang back together. We're going to pick everyone up on
maybe.
Appa. That's the start of the movie.
So I know none of us are really caught up with the comics, but does anybody know where we've left off in terms of like where everybody is right now?
Toph is starting to do stuff, right?
Police things, unfortunately. Oh no, she's doing her metal bending
school, right? Yeah. So I feel like is that the most significant thing, and then there's just random other stuff, but I don't.
Well, there's the stuff with I don't remember where we left off with the Fire Nation, Earth Kingdom colonies, but that's very important.
Well, it's the foundation for Republic City, but it's like.
Right, but I don't remember where the conflict left off. So we're trying to help, but
the basic plot of what let me propose like the most obvious thing that the movie would be centered on, just because this is what we know from the comics and also from having seen Korra, is that what we know the biggest thing Aang's involved in is the creation of Republic City and the Republic of Nations.
Maybe that's what it is. You know, the statue where he's like it's like young Aang.
The statue. Oh yeah.
In Korra.
Yeah, the statue in Korra. Yeah. Maybe that's what.
Yeah, and they really did make that statue of him when he was 15. That's insane.
This is just the biggest thing that happens, right? Is we have to get to the point where we're at with Korra. So is that what the movie's going to focus on? Is like the most significant thing that happens in the world post Avatar pre Korra, which is kind of setting up Republic City and the Republic of Nations.
It feels like it has to be that.
Yeah.
Or is it just going to be a more lighthearted, random kind of thing?
Please, no. I want trauma. But also the making of Republic City. Not that it seems boring, but like it has to have a big conflict for it to be a movie, right? Like, I guess not. I mean, we don't even know how long it's going to be. It could be a 60-minute movie.
Yeah, they said theatrical, so that would, that would imply 90 plus. You could do like a whole miniseries about the creation of Republic City, right? Yeah. Like that could be a whole. So
I feel like that would drag on, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm not that interested in Republic City or the Republic of Nations. So.
Me neither.
That's boring. I'm interested in it.
Oh, you're interested.
I'm interested in the political unrest that will evolve, but like
it's going to be the gang violence because the gang violence is there in Korra.
Oh, God,
I am even less interested in the triad stuff.
I know.
Oh no!
This movie's gonna be about the creation of pro bending. Are you ready?
Oh no!
It's a pro bending only movie.
Get into the open.
Yeah.
It's a sports movie. It's just pro bending.
Everything
we see that the gang is the original pro bending team.
No, what? So Katara, Toph, and Zuko are the team.
Yes.
You know how much of a loser Aang is? Aang would love pro bending.
Aang I think, would be the referee. Like, he would be making all the rules. I hate it already. It's terrible.
It's the airbenders don't. None of that happens until Korra, right? So
right.
Yeah.
It's just family stuff.
There's gonna be so much sad trauma in this movie.
But there's gonna be Kan and Katang in the movie.
Yes,
right, so they'll be together. Will they be married? Presumably, it'll be pre-kids.
What if it's their wedding and some drama happens at their wedding?
It could start off with their wedding paralleling the end of Avatar, the last shot, and then it's like the wedding. Something happens after the wedding that instigates the conflict.
What happens?
Oh my god!
As long as we get the first dance and it's still like the Katango, I don't like.
Oh, and then they do the. Oh my god! This is so good.
It's so good.
Turned into a Katang podcast. Not sorry about it.
No.
Yeah, I don't have faith that Mike and Brian, specifically Brian, will do that.
No. But we can dream. Now you have me picturing the shot transition from when they're 15 to getting married, kissing.
What if they did that though? That would be so great.
That would be insane.
God.
There's definitely gonna be like romantic moments with them, you know, for sure. It's just like
they have to. They're
just together, and it's their legacy is very important to the world. So of course it has to happen.
Universe, like.
It's just will the movie focus on that? I think we're probably not expecting that. But at the same time, if they're together in the movie, it will be
in the background.
Through line. Yeah,
we're gonna get sweeties.
Yes. If you haven't read, I do know that from the comics is that there's a lot of sweeties in the comics.
Oh god, that's the worst. I'm just remembering like this panel and like they're fighting and they're like, "Are you okay, sweetie?" God, it's so bad.
It's bad.
Oh,
very cringe couple.
Is there anything specific from Republic City, Republic of Nations that we think that it could focus on, or just in general?
Just the politics in general. Like,
Well, was it? I mean, Katara outlaws bloodbending.
oh, that too.
There has to be.
And then Toph's gonna get her metal bending school evolved into a police academy, maybe, which I don't want to see, but probably gonna.
Yeah, I doubt they'll focus on that.
I'm really excited for Toph, though. Please give me a lot of Toph.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who? This is a good question. Who are we most excited to see? I have a hot take right off the bat.
Is it Sokka?
It's Sokka because we haven't seen him,
Ooh.
right?
I do want to see Sokka because I'm like. Also, I had a really horrible thought that what if the movie is like Sokka dies? Like.
Oh, I was gonna say Iroh's gonna die.
Oh.
Oh.
Yeah. When does that happen?
But like, will we see it, or will he already have been dead? It depends on the timeline.
The thing is, we see most people in Korra, right? But we just don't see anything about Sokka.
Yeah,
There's so
Sokka.
much mystery with. Like,
Oh, what about Suki?
Suki?
I don't know what happened to her. Like we have like no idea.
I think there's
She's like
I
a
think there's a
bodyguard
Suki
for Zuko
comic,
or
right?
something.
She's
Yeah.
the body. She's Zuko's bodyguard after May leaves.
Weird. It's really weird.
It's weird. Super weird.
That's a good hot take, though. I want to see Sokka too.
Yeah, no, I do want to see Sokka.
He gets started at what is he? Just he's a councilman or something.
Well, he goes home to be the chief, doesn't he? And then
Oh, that's a thing.
Is that a thing? It just feels like they're so separated with most of this stuff.
there's
it really
so much.
does.
The problem is there's like so much, and then there's like I don't know.
I really like Aang picking everyone up again on Appa. I like the idea of that. I like the idea of centering it around a life event like the wedding. These are things that are appealing to me storytelling wise. Someone dying at a funeral, that you could center it around that too. That'd kind of be a bummer.
Yeah, I would rather.
No, it's not going to be centered around it, but
Or just like it's the instigating point. It's like everyone's back together for Iroh's funeral or
no,
something. You know,
oh god,
Don't do that.
something. It's going to
work.
be
It would
something
be
like
terrible.
that. I feel like is the natural way to go.
oh, that's going to hurt.
At least we can like hang out with Iroh in the spirit world, though. So
Will we get Spirit World action?
Oh yeah.
Will we get past lives action?
We won't get action though, because it's just Aang. He's the only one who can go there, and he still can't use bending.
that's true. I would like some past lives. It'll hurt me physically, but I would like some.
Give us Kyoshi and Yang Chen and the other guys.
Yeah. Did the past lives ever come back in Korra? I don't remember. No?
Oh,
After she loses,
because they hate me.
So this is a rare opportunity to see the past lives for Delaney.
Yes, that's why I want the past lives. It'll hurt me physically, and I'll be mad the whole time.
But like, who do you want to see specifically? Avatars we haven't seen? Because that's what I'm rooting for.
Yeah, we could do that.
I mean,
Or this is the way to see Kyoshi if we're not doing a Kyoshi movie.
Kyoshi or Yang Chen. Roku, go
Just
away.
no more Roku, please.
No more Roku. I don't care.
This is a Roku shade podcast.
probably.
I know he's
Probably there'll be
important to
Roku.
Aang. Well, actually, in the comics, Aang gets fed up with Roku.
Yeah, I remember that.
So like,
That was great.
But let's talk to a different like. Okay, what if, now this is like complete fan fiction, and they're not going to do this. But like, what if it's like Aang's doing all this stuff to propose to Katara? So it's like,
Oh my god.
That could
Yeah, like,
totally
what-
be a subplot.
That'd be good.
see,
What do we predict? Let's predict how old they'll be. We could say how old Aang is and then from there everyone else. But are we thinking more along the lines of, older teenage Aang, young adult Aang, or more towards them being married, about to have kids?
Is this what we think or what we're hoping for?
we can do both. What do you think? What are you hoping for, Aly?
I'm assuming they're probably just going to like leave off 15, 16. I would really like to see him as at least 21 and just have everybody be in their 20s, because that's when like life starts getting real and when you got to start getting your stuff together. Like,
it's really funny that you say that. Like Aang didn't like.
well, no, yeah, that's true. He's
All the
been
nonsense
getting his life together since he was
Aang
12. And also, you can get your life together before and after, but that's what everybody says about your 20s.
Delaney, what do you think?
So I'm because Avatar has always catered to me. It's going to be when Aang's like 25.
Because you're the main
It should
character.
be.
then, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I get. I guess I'm most afraid that Aang will be 16 in the movie. I'll still be
Damn.
excited for it, but I think more likely he'd be early 20s. That seems that checks out for me. And also, I feel like if you want to have significant events happening with Republic City and stuff, it has to be further down the line. Isn't it still just like kind of basic colony stuff early on? So I feel like that's
it
boring.
takes time to build a city,
Yeah, I feel like we want to see some more
Not that.
significant things going on.
Some more, not that.
I want y'all to have like weird problems now. Like I don't know. It's
Yeah.
also hard. I will say this is an interesting situation to be in because like to think of everything they have already been through. It's like God, what will happen next?
Yeah, and I don't want it to be too. I mean, I brought up the idea of a more lighthearted thing. I would be fine with that. I don't want it to be like super dramatic. I mean, it should feel significant probably, but
well, it's interesting.
The show is the dramatic thing, and we also saw drama in Korra from Aang.
Well, that's the thing. It's like I'm curious, like what kind of tone, like how is this going to feel? You know, the writing wise, and you know, because Avatar and Korra are very different, like thematically.
Well, let me bring up let me bring up this question that I have later on in the outline because I think it's relevant to this. Who is this movie for? Is it a kids movie or is this a movie that is for us? And I think we don't know yet. What I'll say is there's the recent iCarly reboot, and that was a kids show, but that's an adult show now. Like they like specifically made it for fans who watched it when they were kids, and like there's like cursing and sexual references and stuff. So like
oh my God, let everyone say the F word in this movie, please.
I doubt that it will be like the iCarly reboot specifically in terms of the adult content, just because this is Avatar Studios I can tell you, a branch off of Nickelodeon Animation Studios, and it's not like Nick ever has any adult stuff. So that would be surprising if they went in more adult content direction, but it's possible that the intended audience is us. I really don't know.
I would say it's probably us. Yeah. I will say the offshoot of Nickelodeon gives me a little bit of pause, just because because if we're going to talk about this is a whole other discussion, but talking about what is when you talk about target audiences, but now everything's streaming. And everything's driven by toy sales, but it's I don't know with this and
right. That is a positive of these potentially being, and this movie could be in theaters regardless. I feel like the intended thing is maybe more of a Paramount Plus subscription rather than toy sales these days. I want to have
another streaming service.
That's what it's all going to be now. No more cable, just streaming. Which is just a bunch of different cables.
I mean, if you're Paramount, which is now the company name that was previously CBS Viacom, that merged, that Nick is under Viacom, now under Paramount. The big reason to make the Avatar Studios is to drive Paramount Plus subscribers. I feel like that's
and I think that they're going to market it towards people our age who grew up with the show, because now we are adults and have money.
Yeah.
That will let us get streaming services and pay to see the stuff in the theaters. But I feel like it also has to appeal to kids, because you got to appeal to all sorts of audience for those sweet capitalist market gains,
Well, Avatar's also always been that hype. It was one of the first kind of early, if we want to call it a hybrid show.
Yeah, it's for anybody.
Yeah, well, yeah. So technically, Avatar in animation parlance is a 6 to 11, a kid's 6 to 11 show. That might surprise you if you're like, hey, Avatar is for adults, but it's ultimately driven for that audience that drives the content behind it. My guess is the movie will still be kind of in that range of content, but it's possible that they're not thinking of kids as much when making it. Not that they really ever. Mike and Brian always say we want to make something that's good for ourselves. They constantly say that. So
I didn't consider that this could be PG-13 though.
That's actually what I was considering. I was thinking this movie could be PG-13.
It's interesting. My guess would be PG, but it could be PG-13.
Also PG-13, but the only character who gets to say the F word is Toph.
Toph, yeah, let Toph say You can censor me. I had to say it.
Okay. It got spoken over before, but we'll see if it was in there. So I feel like that kind of, if it's like a 6 to 11 movie, that makes me think it's more that Aang's going to be 16. If it's they're thinking more of us, for people who are fans of Avatar when they're kids, then I think it's more likely to be, Aang's in his 20s. But you could still have a kids movie and they're young adults. I think that's.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we think about How to Train Your Dragon. I mean, they're adults.
They're in their 20s by the end of.
Yeah.
Well, before the time skip at the end of the third movie, they're in their 20s, right?
Oh, before the third movie. There's another time skip? Okay.
When they have kids.
Oh, okay.
But before that, they should be in their 20s, right?
Yeah. They're 1920, I think.
Yeah.
There's dragons in Avatar.
There are dragons.
There are. That's true.
Are we going to get baby dragons?
The fact that we don't get baby, Sky Bison until Korra is, depressing.
Yeah.
I know. There's a lot with the Airbender stuff.
I won't lie. I'm excited about super old Appa.
There's a lot with the spirit world that we can't do here either. So I'm what are they going to do? other than boring Republic City stuff.
Aang could go into the spirit world. Why not?
Well, I mean, but what is there to do there? There's no unrest because they're not connected.
What
with
is there
the
ever
human
to
world.
do in the spirit world?
There-
Aang just
yeah,
like
meditate.
gallops around talking to spirits.
Actually, no. I think if they start doing stuff in the Republic City, Aang has like a lot of reason to go into the spirit world because the spirits are going to be like, "This sucks."
Oh yeah, there's that conflict. I will say what's interesting about going back to Avatar times is the spirit world's a good example because the spirit world kind of changed between Avatar and Korra. Like they kind of changed their minds on what the spirit world is, and it looks very different in Korra than in Avatar. So it's like, what would it look like if they flashed back to Avatar times?
So on that note, what is the art going to look like? Like, I have a lot of notes about this because nothing's been confirmed other than that it's going to be 2D.
It will be 2D animation. That's what was confirmed. Yes.
Which I'm very happy about.
I don't know if they're going to be animating it in-house or if Prince and Studio Mir would animate it. I'm not sure.
Are they also all going to be in the same style, or are they just talking about that movie? Or they said period, everything's going to be 2D?
They just said everything's 2D. We don't know about it's different styles. That would be really cool.
It would be so cool. Like that Star Wars anime that happened. There was a bunch of different styles.
Yeah.
Ideally, I'd like it to look like Into the Spider-Verse or Arcane, but that's an insane budget and an insane amount of time, and I don't think it'll happen.
Yeah, so they specifically brought up Arcane on the Comic-Con Meta podcast. They said Arcane
podcast. I have to listen.
They say, I think Brian, he's like, Arcane's amazing and it looks great, but we're not trying. That's not our thing. We're doing 2D.
Fair.
You know, so yeah,
it's fair. CG just gives them an excuse to play with stylization in a new way, but like bending doesn't look as good no matter how hard you try. But the stylization is definitely very important.
I'm very interested to see in terms of animation quality more along the lines of like Korra books 3 and 4, which really unlocked Avatar's visuals.
Oh please, Korra book 3, so pretty.
The bar set is definitely going to depend on how much budget they're given and how the writing and direction is. Like,
and if this is a theatrical movie, I'm confident this will look very good.
I'm also very confident they can build a better team, knowing not better, but like just a team that will do what they want. It's just I don't know. I'm not confident Paramount's going to let them like do everything they want in the right time with the right amount of money, but that's just me being paranoid.
I mean, look, the Paramount gave them their own studio. It's hard to get anything more than that. So
it's true, but they could also screw the studio over.
I know we're very skeptical. Mike and Brian also said whoever Ramsey, I believe, the person who like instigated this, talked to them about the idea of Avatar. So it's not someone who was there from Nick during Avatar and Korra times. I think this is like they have a more supportive studio behind them at this point, and they get to make their own thing, and they're the heads of it. So kind of ideal condition. We'll see. But going to like an Aang movie to start, and it's a theatrical thing, it's probably gonna have a lot of money behind it. Probably gonna look really good. And next question probably will take a long time to come out. So,
I guess my estimate was not correct.
Well, let's talk about that. So, from what they've said, Mike and Brian, and I've also heard interviews with them on the official Avatar podcast that exists now, by Janet and Dante. And I'll probably reference that more later. But it seems like things are still early. You know, we just got the director announced. I would say like it's not coming this year. This movie,
absolutely not.
And it would kind of be a surprise if it came next year. But second half of 2023, possible. You know, if things move quickly.
Oh, maybe I was I'm not so generous. I was going to say between 2025 and 2030. Like anywhere in that range.
No, since they're just doing a movie, it's not like the movie's going to take 5 years. You know, it's like
but the animation takes a long time, and if they want it to look really good, depending on how many like bending scenes there are going to be, and
I think 2024 is an average guess. You know,
Whoa, sorry.
It would be a very weird move to announce what the movie's about, who's directing it, and then it's like 5 years later. It comes out.
That's true, but I mean, we could also have another pandemic. We don't know what's going to happen.
You also don't know what's going to happen.
Saying another, like it's not the same one every like 5 times.
Well, we have a different one right now. Not a pandemic, but epidemic.
Yeah, it's basically.
You don't know what's going to. I mean, I think that plays into like this idea for me of when they did mention a series during that podcast. So there are series eventually coming, but they have only announced 3 movies for now. My thing is like I get going with a long-term plan here. And I can see the logic of setting up, okay, we're going back to Avatar for the first one to get people back in, and then maybe we do a post-Korra movie to transition to the next Avatar show. That idea makes a lot of sense to me. The next Avatar after Korra, and then do a series about them. However, I don't think we should take things for granted in our that they're going to be this Avatar Studios will exist 10 years from now. You know, like I want the next Avatar show. I want them to start working on it now because at Paramount could fold. Like with these mega studios are very unstable. As we're seeing with other ones, I will say Paramount seems to be one of the more stable ones.
With streaming in general, like streaming is very volatile.
Streaming is very volatile. Yeah, the Paramount they just renamed it, but CBS Viacom, it's really only been those two companies in some form for a long time. They were together, then they broke up, then they got back together.
And then also there's laws that could break companies.
And they could have if it would be very good if they had these anti-mega corporate merger laws, but I'm not holding my breath. But so it's like it's hard for me to say like, oh, go with a big Marvel plan, you know.
That's what I'm afraid of too, though, because I don't want to get like burnt out like I have with Marvel stuff with Avatar. Like one fear.
Yeah, I mean, it would be shocking if there's as much content, but just the long-term plan of like holding off on big things, which has paid off very well for them.
Yeah.
It's, I'm not so confident that there's a long-term big studio and animation, a medium that this country doesn't really treat very well is going to be stable and supported for a significant period of time.
It would only work if they had an Avatar multiverse, and that's not going to happen, I don't think.
We could do a multiverse.
Now I'm imagining it, but I don't think it would be the thing. It's just, fan fiction.
How about the other two movies? We can quickly spend time on that. So there's a fan account which predicted Lauren / revealed Lauren Montgomery. So they got something right in the past, but a lot of people are treating this as fact. I would say it's not official. It's really just a fan account. So
because they also said the first movie that would come out would be Zuko's movie or something.
They said Kyoshi, and then they're like, no, we got the order wrong. But so they said Kyoshi and a Korra movie.
Didn't they also say we were going to get a Zuko movie? Where'd that come from?
I don't think so. I also saw going around on Twitter that the movie would be about adults gang. That's like that's speculation.
Yeah, I saw that too, and I was like,
that's not that. They didn't say that in the announcement. I mean, like, is 20-year-old Aang adult gang? If so, probably. But could be 16. It's not confirmed. So. What do we think the movie? How about this idea of the idea of a Kyoshi movie that's not an adaptation of the books is very weird to me. That's all. That's
why you could do it where the books pick up.
Well, where does the second book
200?
end?
You could do like whenever.
How old is she, Aly? How old is she at the end of the second book?
I want to say late teens, early 20s.
Okay.
That's 200 years after that.
Kyoshi creating what?
Like we could see her create the Dai Li. Like that hasn't been established.
That'd be cool.
I guess that's what they would do. I mean, my first thought would be Kyoshi, which by the way, Kyoshi creating the Dai Li is from like a Nick.com thing. Like it's like but that's everything's canon. Everything's canon. That's canon.
You guys remember that? Dang.
What was it called? It was
Journey to the. No, I'm making it
something
up.
like that. Yeah, it was like a Nick.com flash thing. But that was they like revealed canon, and Kyoshi created the Dai Li from Basing. So that's
well, that's all we had. We had Flash games, and
that brought back memories.
Well, during Avatar, it's Kyoshi versus Conqueror Chin, like that. You could do that.
Yeah.
That I don't want that.
We've seen that so many times. We don't.
I'm not interested in that. But that Dai Li thing, that's kind of interesting. So you could do that.
I mean, you could pick up off where the books end. There's only 2, and we don't know if we're getting a third, at least right now. I would like a third. I would like it to continue for forever, because FCE is a genius. But you really don't have to even start, too far ahead of the novels, but you could start where it gets, more interesting. She had a long life. She lived for, was it 230 years?
I think so.
She's a long time.
It's just you're going to make a movie about 100-year-old Kyoshi?
Why
that was probably her in her prime.
That's probably when she fought Conqueror.
So if she lives for 200 plus years, is she an old person from 80 on, or is she aged slowly? That's the real question.
Yeah, they could do that. Is it not a Benjamin Button situation, but
I assume just because you live a long time doesn't mean you age slowly. How does that work?
And she's the only Avatar we know of to live that long.
Granted, it wasn't. I do think it's in. Well, we know Roku lived a long time, but then it's also one of those too where it's
Did he?
Yes, not a long time, but he was old.
100 or something.
Because that's the thing. Because it was implied too that Aang probably would have lived.
Would have if not
he
for
wasn't
the
frozen in the
iceberg.
ice.
Yeah.
That's my impression. Is avatars are supposed to live a long time. Yeah, but it's not really established definitively.
I mean, you got all those souls in you. It makes sense.
This will be relevant when we talk about the timing for the next Avatar show. But well, you got all these souls in you. I don't know what that means.
It's good. Like, oh god.
I didn't know. I wasn't sure if you were just going to brush over it or if you were going to. So thank you.
So how about the idea of a post-Korra show? We see Korra and Asami when they're older.
You know that's all we want.
You just said Korrasami. Like, I don't care.
Korrasami.
Yeah. So.
I feel like there's so much you can do post-Korra that I'm interested in.
Oh, yeah, because the possibilities are endless now that the world is expanding. But, like...
Specifically
also,
for me, the future of their nation.
Exactly.
And then also, I mean, Korra is technically... beginning the new
Avatar. A new cycle,
Yes, new cycle.
And then the new Avatar, like, if we ever get an
Do we really think they're not going to bring back... I feel like they might bring back the past
I don't want it. They did it for a reason.
Like, really, the next Avatar is just going to have Korra to talk to?
Yes!
Like, I feel like they want... I feel like they want Aang to... Like, look, there's a bunch of idiots who, like, don't like Korra like Aang. We're really not going to talk to Aang, and we are going to talk to Korra. Like, they're going to make
Korra
that decision.
Could be like, I talked to Aang, and he had this advice. It's stupid.
I feel like we need to talk to Aang if we're doing past.
I mean, I do feel like Korra probably doing some nonsense Airbender stuff with Tenzin. They could probably get back to Aang, but like nothing else.
Like during Korra, they arbitrarily brought back Airbenders. Like it didn't make any sense. They obviously could bring back like
it was magic, Dylan. Like
I don't know because Rava like disappeared for a while. It's different than.
Are we getting the Ravavatu movie? Is that coming?
Oh, God.
Delaney's so excited for it.
You mean like how they were created?
I'm just in my...
Just the two of them flying around in the sky.
All I can hear is the dubstep lasers. I can't hear y'all anymore. It's just dubstep lasers.
Avatar 1 movie?
No. We saw his whole story.
I think we saw it. Yeah, I think we saw
the whole thing.
It would just be him, like, on Earth acting as the Avatar until he died. I don't care about that.
It would just be those 2 episodes, but like 30 minutes longer.
I feel like you do 2 post-Korra movies. I feel like you do this one Aang movie, then you do one movie focusing on Korra, Asami, with some other stuff. Then you do like something to bridge us closer to the next Avatar.
Yes, I agree.
Korra dying, basically.
that would be like if
you die at the end.
I feel like since Korra is less popular than Avatar,
everyone would be happy about it.
I feel like it's tough if there's two
Don't make
Korra
me
movies.
Sad.
Listen. In order for Avatar to keep going, she does need to die at some point. I don't like admitting it, but
spoilers: Korra will die.
She's got to go.
But quickly, other than what we've mentioned, any other characters that we know of that could have a movie focused on them?
Well, I don't think, no, they won't have a movie focused on them, but the avatars that we've heard about in the novels, I'm curious to see. I don't really think we should get a movie about any of them.
Kyoshi Warriors would be cool.
Oh, God, yeah. Yes, Kyoshi Warrior movie. Suki movie!
Azula movie.
Azula movie.
Yes,
we need an Azula movie.
Be interesting.
Kylie Azula and May movie. Let's go. Bring the squad back.
Honestly, a Kylie movie would be like
Tyzula movie.
Tyzula movie.
That was your
thing.
That was a thing.
It's a good ship.
Pair of ships, so good.
This isn't like it's not characters we've seen, but I still want to see like past avatars we haven't seen, like not just new ones. That's going to be the most exciting thing. But I'm still interested.
Was the earliest one Kirik?
No, so we have Wan, who's the oldest one, and then in the novels, at least in the Yang Chen novels, there are a bunch of ones mentioned. That's like, so the one before her
wasn't Yang Chen the earliest one in the show.
In the show, yeah, but then in the book, she mentions there are callbacks repeatedly to the Fire Nation avatar before her, and then there's a bunch of other dudes before that. Like, I'm curious to see anything between them, but I don't know if it's going to be as exciting because, like, I think they could do something because you have like just under 1,000 lives to work with. Like, you could really come up with anything, even in the universe just like that hasn't been expanded like before Korra. Obviously, it's going to be much more interesting to see a modern Avatar or an Avatar after Korra, but I still want to see like stories that don't revolve around avatars and just have them in the background, like normal, maybe not a movie, but like a short or something that focuses on like normal citizens with real life problems, and the avatar's just there.
I was kind of thinking, actually, was that like, in my head, like, I do agree, like, I do think like 2 post-Korra movies, but I was actually thinking the third movie would be like the world doesn't really need the Avatar anymore.
No!
And kind of like that.
But then
that
Avatar's
Avatar-
over forever.
Well, no, not over forever, but like that idea of like what that Avatar had, like what is their job, like what is their role.
Yeah, that would be
Like
amazing.
Korra, you know, I mean, this kind of happens in Korra, where you know you're supposed to be the bridge between the worlds. Well, now you don't need a bridge.
Yeah, that would be amazing. But like, it's complicated. I'm interested to see how they would do it if they would. I'd love it. But can I go back? Why do we need 2 Korra movies? Is one just for Korrasami and then the other?
Yes. One's
Yeah.
just for Korrasami.
Yeah, or it's just
I'm
the
not
idea that
complaining.
there's like a lot of material, and also like I do think if you're doing the Avatar after Korra, having a movie that bridges them makes a lot of
It's
sense.
one of
to me.
those
It
like
does,
we have
it
so
does.
much. We know so much about the time during Avatar and then like between Aang and Korra. But like now with Korra, it's like we just have that and
Yeah.
like what
like
2
a
comics?
few comics, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
I agree. One thing I'll bring up, which could be a possibility for the Aang movie, very unlikely, but it did occur to me. It's like everyone's like assumes that the movie is post Avatar. I'm like, you could do a Lost Adventure from the show. Like you
yeah,
could do
that's
like
true.
literally this takes place in their book 2 or book 3, and here's just like a little movie of something we didn't actually see during the show. And you try to like imitate the art style as much as possible. I feel like that could be exciting.
I was gonna say
Yeah.
Momo alone, but that was the tale of Appa.
Momo alone. I mean,
Yeah.
I wouldn't hate that.
Guys, what if we got a movie about Lu Ten?
Ooh, that would hurt my soul.
That's a good one.
Like
Yeah.
Iroh.
I feel like Lieutenant
raising
never
him.
comes up. Yeah.
That would hurt.
Yeah, so an Iroh thing would be good. Yeah, it's UA post.
I mean, could we have a
post
movie?
her death?
Okay,
Post-death.
this is kind of like a weird like.
Co-movie, of
It's
course,
just a movie
right?
that like just is a shot of the moon for 90
Yeah.
minutes, and that's it.
Or like, I mean, this kind of feels a little weird, but like, could we have a movie of like the time when Aang was dead? Like,
Like, oh, wait, you mean in the iceberg or like dead?
no, I mean like at the end of book 2.
Oh yeah, everything that happened while he was.
It was not a long time, I think.
We
I,
don't-
I will say I will say for dramatic effect, they definitely could like make it longer.
It was.
Yeah,
I
I just think
Ben
you could insert a story
long
into
time.
Avatar. It's like this such beloved thing. It would be very hype for this. People would freak out and they'd be like, "You can't touch the show."
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm open to it. I'm fine.
You can touch it if this wasn't mentioned in it. Like, what the hell?
Also,
Yeah.
it's one of those. That's the thing. Like, it's a travel log. That's also part of why I think it's so hard to imagine like what we're gonna do in the movie because like we've been everywhere.
Yeah, they
Like,
literally
what-
traveled the world.
Yeah, well, I think there's a lot of the Earth Kingdom and Fire Nation you could get more into, especially the Fire Nation. They really kind of sped through things. I feel like.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm either definitely about like when Aang's dead or like when Aang has hair. So
When Aang has hair, yeah, that'd be good. More headband stuff, please.
yes,
More-
literally the
Fire Nation School
headband.
Slice of Life movie.
Sold.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Beach day movie.
More,
Yes,
yeah,
also
agree.
I'm telling you, the beginning of the movie is just going to be Ember Island players.
I'm ready for it. But then, how are they going to do that if they're going to be older? It's the Ember Island players, but from where the comics take off. No.
The next Ember Island players, the next play. that
It's
they
it's
do.
it's a very hallowed tradition.
Yeah. Well, we'll get.
Are we going to get a Korra Ember Island players?
Oh, that'd be really bad.
I think
I
the
want
time
that
has
really.
passed.
It would be terrible. And
Well, it'd be a movie. Well, it'd be like black and
Oh
white.
yeah, a mover. Oh my god.
Yeah.
No.
Did we get a mover of it? I don't
Merrick's
remember.
gonna make it. It would make sense.
Yeah.
It's
Okay,
Bolin plays every character.
Bolin movie, stuff like that. Okay, here's some other sporadic questions. We talked about this a lot, but how are we feeling about this, the Avatar Studios in general? Having talked about it some more now too. Is this the thing? You know, like, is this the thing we're excited for? I think we've expressed maybe some trepidation in some areas.
It feels like unreal. Like
Yeah.
if you had told me 5 years ago that this was going to happen, I'd been like, what?
I'm still of the mindset that Nick, like Viacom, whoever, are like fools for not coming to terms with the show's popularity and marketability until after it was on Netflix. Like it's really I'm surprised we haven't seen more adaptations outside of the comics and novels like years ago. But like I said earlier, I'm always going to be more excited for Avatar content, especially if and when it's coming from like the right group of people, like not live action, not just. Are we going to talk about like, okay, do we know who's like on the crew for this kind of thing? Is it mostly straight white guys? Like, do we know anything? Like, are there more women in the room?
Everyone. I can tell you who we know. What was I going to say from what you said? But okay, the biggest thing we haven't talked about is Steve Ahn will be head of story. That was announced.
Yes,
for
I'm excited
Avatar
for
Studios. He worked on Korra. He's really, really talented. So I'm very happy he's involved. I
wanted to ask you how the boys thing was because I haven't seen it.
Yeah, and he directed one of the best episode of the boys animated little 11-minute segments, and that's
it's long, nice.
Yeah, that's one of the most gorgeous pieces of animation of the year. So I'd recommend that, John and Sunyi. So they mentioned on the Mike and Brian on the Comic-Con Metapod, they said to a certain extent they're getting the band back together. They said that phrase, I believe. My interpretation of this is it's like the Korra band, in terms of...
I don't even know.
The Korra people, because there's definitely people from Avatar that were significant to Avatar that weren't involved with Korra, and I don't expect to be involved with Avatar Studios. You know, I think most notably Aaron Ehaz, we're not expecting to be involved in that capacity. They did mention Aaron. I will add, Mike and Brian very rarely mention Aaron. They did mention him on the most recent podcast that came out, which was about Toph. Mike and Brian were interviewed on there about the creation of Toph because Aaron's the one who's like, what if Toph was a girl? So they told that story again. They've said that a million times. But he's doing Dragon Prince stuff and there's baggage there, so I'm not expecting that at all. Giancarlo Volpe is more interesting. I think he's not signed on to Avatar Studios yet. He didn't work on Korra. I would love if he was involved in Avatar Studios. That'd be great. We don't know too many specific people yet. I think that this question of one thing that might temper, and this is, I think, a hard topic to talk about, so I don't know how much we want to get into it. We can see that might temper expectations for Avatar Studios. How about this versus the live action show? Here's where I'll bring it up, is this notion of kind of authentic people telling these stories, if that's a weird way to say it. But for the live action Avatar show has Asian and indigenous people in front of and behind the camera making it. It's all Asian and indigenous actors and people and creators and writers and directors, from what I understand, or mostly from behind the camera. So to me, that's the biggest reason why I'm interested in still checking it out.
Same.
That's
I'm the only reason for me, honestly.
And there's there's a lot of talented actors.
The cast is stacked, but more importantly, it's cast properly with the right kind of people.
So if you have the opinion that that's proper, then what about Avatar Studios? Mike and Brian are heading this. It's always felt weird, that Avatar is a movie about Asian and indigenous cultures created by two white guys, right? I think that's always, and the fact that most obvious thing is the voice actors. We could talk about that. The question of who will voice Aang is really interesting, because I haven't heard Mike and Brian directly comment on this yet. The closest thing was during, I think, one of the Avatar podcasts, official Avatar podcast. Janet asked a great question in this area, and Brian's response was, the only thing he specifically said is he doesn't think there's any one person who can solely tell the stories of the cultures in Avatar.
That's a good answer. I mean, he's not wrong.
Just true, yeah, because it's an amalgamation of many Asian cultures and indigenous, right? It's a lot of cultures. But the fact that that's kind of the only specific thing he said about it does worry me a little bit, because it didn't say he didn't say we're not alone qualified to tell these stories or anything like that. So I'm not sure if that's their mindset. I'm not sure if they will have only Asian indigenous people voicing the characters. I haven't heard anything about that. I have no idea who's going to voice Aang. I don't know if they're going to recast people. I'd be surprised if they recast Korra.
Right.
I'm more worried that, I have stuff to say about the voice acting stuff, but I just think it's necessary to have Asian and indigenous people, and specifically more women, in the writing room and directing things, not just doing the acting stuff behind the scenes, but shaping the story, helping to shape it. Because
so Lauren is directing the first movie, so it's a good start.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Steve Ahn being the head of story is also a really good thing. but just more diversity in the writers' room. Because I mean, for Korra especially, I don't really remember, but it seemed like for Avatar and in both of the series, it was mostly white guys, which was not the best, but they worked with what they could and their interpretations. But I think you have to have at least some Asian people helping like form the stories, because it is like a East Asian universe. Like if you really want to tell those stories, you have to have people who are more familiar with them than you.
Theoretically, we would hope that given this is more independent than Nickelodeon,
Exactly,
that we will have more. But I will say, if we don't, that is poorly reflected on Mike and Brian, like really poorly.
Yeah, I agree.
Especially because there is no excuse, especially with the more and more shows we've covered, shows that are out into the world now, and like
it represents so much diversity.
And people who are people our age, like I'm about to go back to school. There are plenty of people our age who grew up watching Avatar who are like of mixed race, who are, who have this East Asian ancestry, and who are like, I want to work on Avatar. Like, there's no reason, like,
yeah,
who are like well qualified, and people who have been working in the industry forever.
Yeah.
The one specific thing we've heard about this is on the Avatar podcast. They interviewed Migizzy Pensanu. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his name right, but he's a Avatar Studios consultant on Native representation. So they have him. He's a writer on Reservation Dogs. So he's a consultant on representation. I mean, it's great. I think that
you need stuff like that, especially in this year of our Lord 2022.
I'm worried it's more, they're going more in the direction of consultants than co-creators and co-writers.
Yeah.
Right? Like that would be my current concern. Because
that's my concern when they talk about getting the band back together. It's like on the one hand, that's cool. That's good for like, whatever you want to call it. Like, we liked Avatar and we want the same people who are working on it.
Like retaining the original feel.
Yeah. But then at the same time, it's like, it's,
we want to bring new perspectives.
Also, I mean, this is also kind of like, I mean, I don't know how valid this is, but it's one of those like, I'm excited for this, but I'm also nervous because like, my threshold for like not doing things like, let's say, quote unquote, say correctly is much lower, like much higher than it was.
When we were kids.
Because I want to be like, where
where are the gay people?
Yeah,
literally.
Right, like Avatar was out in mid 2000s. Even when Korra came out, though, I feel like our group, it was announced that Janet Varney is voicing Korra. We were like, should this white lady be voicing Korra? We thought that at the time when Korra came out.
And even when they were casting for the movie that shall not be named, we were like, is it weird that a white guy
about that? Yeah.
It's totally different, but we were of the mindset that like we were questioning it at least.
Well, also it's one of those things where it's like, and no, like obviously it was never really a valid argument to begin with, but especially now, there is no excuse to say, whatever nonsense they want to say. Like there is no excuse.
Yeah.
So I think that we need to brace for white people voicing roles in Avatar Studios.
I'm fine with that if it's the original people, but if they recast people and specifically don't like put out a call for like only East Asian,
right? So is there this notion of it's okay if we bring Janet back just because she's already cast, but new characters should be voiced by? Is that the notion that you're bringing up? Like new characters should be voiced by
honestly,
Asian
I think
indigenous
so.
people?
At least like more than half of them at least have to be in there. Not just voices, but like I mean I've said in the room, but if they're recasting, especially if they're recasting main characters, there's no reason why they shouldn't recast like according to the race they represent.
Yeah, I agree with that. That makes sense to me.
But for new characters, I mean, I think the same. Yeah, you should hire people who are the people on screen. Like same principle.
Yeah, I mean,
this happened recently. Now I can't remember what show it was, but they didn't.
It happens so often.
There's always stuff like this. I feel like we would have heard if they were making a commitment to only cast Asian and indigenous voice actor. I feel like we would have heard that. So that's why I'm like, you should brace for it. The only thing I'll say about this is I have heard this perspective more that I wasn't aware of, like some leftist perspective that this notion. I've been watching some Hassan on Twitch. Hassan, he actually brings up this example of the recasting a character in Family Guy, because it's not the race that the character is, as like an aesthetics thing. Like, that doesn't really matter. Like, it's not like a substantial thing that has an impact on people's lives. So it's like, this is like aesthetics. It doesn't matter. So I will bring, because we always kind of have this liberal perspective of these sorts of things really matter a lot on that we espouse on the podcast. So I do think there are some people who are like left, very far left, who think this isn't like an important thing to focus on. So I guess that should be brought up as well.
Yeah.
I will say ultimately, and we all agree with this, representation does matter, and also studies and continuously, and from my own lived experience, obviously I can't speak to specifically to race because I am a white person, but this does matter, and not to be too obnoxious about it, but a lot of times people who purport those opinions that you just said are men, and that does skew.
And I agree with that, and like I still think it matters. I do buy to a certain extent into the notion that this isn't the most important thing. You know, like
I do agree with that. Like, it's not like
the writer's room is definitely more important.
Like, so that's what I was going to say. Is like, maybe it's more important that the creators and writers are Asian Indigenous than the voice actors. Maybe you could say that, and then maybe even more so, maybe the themes that are being said from the shows are the most important thing, because maybe that will have the most tangible impact. But this is a very generic conversation.
Well, I will say also, like, I mean, if you really want to get nitty gritty about it, I mean, ultimately it's money. Like, where is your money going? Who is getting paid? Which I think would be an argument for, it is important that these people are voice actors because they're getting paid.
Yeah.
Like, put your money where your mouth is. And then, you know, there's initiatives. We'll just have to see, because it's like, at bare bones, we don't know if this is going to be successful. God, I hope it will be.
One fear.
But it's one of those things, talking about like making jobs for people, having their and also ultimately when we talk about representation too, like, I mean, the messaging in Avatar ultimately, is like, be a good person and be nice, and hopefully we can continue to. Yeah,
and Avatar's always had progressive themes. That's a great point. In its own way, Avatar itself was progressive in that there were a ton of women in the show who were kind of action heroes.
I mean, I will say one of the most, like, I think, and this is still, it stands the test of time, is like Katara and Toph's kind of like dynamic, and like kind of like their different forms of like femininity and like being a woman. It has a lot. It speaks a lot. So like it's
I think so, and I think so. I think like overall, I think we all think this is important. If I were doing Avatar Studios, just because I brought up that perspective, doesn't mean that's necessarily where I'm at, but I do think, keep that there can be multiple things that are true. If I would only cast, like Asian Indigenous people, I'd only have Asian Indigenous creators. I would not have Mike and Brian be like the sole co-heads of the studio. So like, I think we're already past that to a certain extent. But like, look, everyone who's involved with this are like generally progressive people. I think that probably there will be a lot of Asian Indigenous voice actors involved, and artists involved, and writers. I think if you're going to be excited about this, though, I think you do need to brace for this not being 100%.
Not of those people.
Yeah. Also, I had the thought. I'm like, what if like the Avatar for like the future, like modern Avatar?
Please don't say white.
Oh no, I was going to say non-binary.
Okay.
Oh, look, Delaney, I can give you my pitch for the next series if you want.
I want a non-binary or a transgender Avatar. No.
Oh my god, I thought you were going to say.
Why would I do that?
Yeah, for like the important casting, they gotta like not cast a white person for the next Avatar. I mean, I think that's obvious, but
but we need Dylan. I want to hear your pitch for trans non-binary Avatar. Go.
Yeah, well, so here's my. This is along the lines of like maybe the themes we're talking about in the show can be the most important thing. Where I'm most interested in post Korra, I think I gave a version of this in the stream from before, but of post Korra, the next Avatar. I think you can set it in modern times if you work it out with, Korra dying at some age. I think you can make it so it's like now. I think
it could work because it's the 20s. She could definitely live.
She'd be like 80, between like 80 and 120, whatever the exact math is, right? Like it could easily make sense.
I feel like out of sheer will, she would outlive.
Absolutely,
she's annoying.
Out of spite. She'll live out of spite.
Yeah.
And you set it in the present, and that enables you to comment on the present in ways that Avatar hasn't been able to before. And I'm the most interested in it's especially given where Korra ends, which is at a place where Prince Wu brings democracy into the Earth Kingdom. The next Avatar would be Earth, or the Earth Avatar. Ooh. And Republic City is very capitalist, and I think we dealt with a lot of things about capitalism. So I think we're at a point with the modern Earth Avatar where we're a capitalism, democracy like nation and we can explore the issues that result about that parallel our world. So like, is this the best system? Extrapolating on Republic City,
and it would build really well off of
that's so
Korra,
good
because they got into it a little bit in Korra.
That's perfect.
So I want the Earth, the next Earth Avatar.
What's their name? It has to be something very non-binary.
Well, I haven't even gotten to that part yet, but that's kind of a separate idea. But this is like, I want this to deal with the structural challenges to democracy, challenges to
capitalism,
the challenges capitalism imposes.
Also, I think, what is this? I mean, what about the ramifications for like the Fire Nation? Like,
oh God, yeah.
It's interesting in-world stuff too, and you can parallel that as well. Anyway, in terms of, you could apply this to the next Avatar or any Avatar down the line. The thing I'm like really interested in for the Avatar with regards to gender, especially if you bring back the past lives, is like the Avatar is a person who deals with all people of all genders as like a component of their own identity. I think that's like super interesting thematic ground that they haven't explored. And so you could have a non-binary or trans Avatar of some extent that grapples with the fact that maybe that they have a lot of gender kind of influences inherently into their identity. I think that's like literally just a part of the show that is there that they have not explored.
They haven't explored it yet, yeah.
And to me, that's like the most interesting thing they could do with the concept of being the Avatar. I mean, granted, the past lives thing is maybe not here anymore, but
also no, I'm always fine. We can make up any reason in the world to bring the past.
Why? Am I the only one who doesn't care? Like,
I care if it revolves around this sort of thing, an identity. Like I like it. I like that. What's the identity of the Avatar? I'm really interested in that.
I mourn the past lives. I like have made peace with it.
I mourn them, but I'm so over it. Like, Korra's fine. She's got it. She'll help whoever's next. I have confidence in her.
Yeah, we'll say. Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know if you need the past lives or not, but anyway, I think like a non-binary or a gender fluid Avatar is like the extremely logical place to go with the.
That really should be how the next series picks up after Korra. I need.
So I would love that.
I'm going to be disappointed in anything else now. Tink you, Dylan.
You're welcome. Yes, let's get us involved.
I'm also glad that we're always on the same page. Like, I was just like, yeah, they should be non-binary, duh.
Yeah,
I apologize for assuming you were going to say that we're going to have a white Avatar. I didn't think you were saying that's what we should have.
I would really hope that's not what's going to happen.
No, it can't. It shouldn't. Please don't.
Any other series ideas that come to mind, or thematic space we want Avatar to explore as we wrap up?
Because yours was the best.
Yeah, honestly,
I mean, it's generic. We could do more specific things too. But I just honestly, I feel like that's literally the natural place to go after Korra. It is. Especially when you end it with the democracy thing.
I'm like vaguely interested in like a future Avatar.
Oh yeah, and then
Avatar in space.
I think we talked about this too. But then you do the Avatar after the Earth Avatar after Korra, Water, Earth, Fire, and then you do the Fire Avatar after that, who's like more of a futuristic Avatar. Yeah. Those are like the obvious shows to do, right? Like,
then you could actually like try to expand it to the multiverse, because we're like, in real life, we could have multiple universes.
Avatar, that's the Avatar state, allows you to see between dimensions.
Oh, yep, there it is. We did it.
Done. Broke it wide open.
Connected the dots. Seriously, it could happen.
It could happen.
I'm dead serious.
Delaney, any more general ideas for Avatar Studio you're thinking of?
I mean, they're like, we have a show planned. We have 3 movies. I mean, I guess that's like the most we could hope for. I'm also kind of in that boat of like, I'm like, oh God, please get them out as fast as you can.
Right? Like, shouldn't we start production on a show if we're going to do the show? Like, that's my biggest thing.
I'm like, are we just going to do the movie, or are we going to do show? Like,
they could be doing it and just haven't said anything.
Yeah, well, they said 3 movies, but it doesn't mean that it's going to be 3 movies then.
No, but like, right? Like,
So it could start it earlier.
There are series, right? They did confirm series, at least one.
Mike said the word "there's series" during that podcast, yeah, but that hasn't been like an announcement. But like, yeah,
if it's coming from him, I trust it. So they might be like starting pre-production.
It's at least like they're planning it out. I think is probably what they're doing. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're only working on the movie. This is
kind of. I mean, this is kind of something we haven't really dealt with before. I feel like when we talk about shows and like shows we're excited for coming out. And I mean, this is like they literally are like, okay, we're building a studio from scratch.
Yeah, it's very innovative.
Yeah, and it could take a while, right? So
I'll wait. I'll be on my deathbed still waiting for Avatar.
Are we going to be 40 and waiting for this movie?
I'm going to be in my 90s and I will still be waiting for Avatar.
We're going to be 40 and we're going to get the van and we're like, all right, guys.
Finally, yes, we'll do it.
Let's go.
Get the van. We'll come back.
Can't be a tour bus. We're too old for that. It's gonna.
Well, no, now we can drive, so it makes sense.
Yeah, now we can drive.
Very optimistic that the world will be in a state in 50, plus years.
Well, that's why I said we can't fly.
Well, yeah, we're gonna have maybe flying cars because we're gonna have electric cars in 40 years.
This is all very optimistic. Okay, Aly, what's your...
When your electric car buzzes out in the middle of Kentucky because we have no charging station.
You will in 40 years. It's going to happen.
I mean, you could do flying cars with the Fire Avatar. This is relating it to... you could do this sort
of thing. They'll power the rockets to space because Korra will have to be the first Avatar who goes to space if we're going to wind up being in...
Yeah, then you can start doing space. I mean, it's infinite territory, yeah.
And then the multiverse.
I'm sorry. You could not pay me enough money on this earth to get on a rocket Varric made. Like, it's not happening. Varric's like, I built a rocket. No, I'm not getting in it. Sorry.
No, you have to pay me.
I think we're done with Varric, but I guess not. I guess
we could have Julie and Varric child running around in the next Avatar verse.
Oh, yeah, I could see them.
Or at least descendants.
Yeah. Aly, speaking of any final ideas for Avatar Studio?
I swear, you really set the bar, honestly. Like, I can't imagine anything else. Like, at least for a future Avatar after Korra.
I also don't think they'll do that, by the way, because I think
but they should.
Because it's too thematically...
kind of an idea, that's the problem.
It's too thematically heavy.
Indigenous, non-binary, trans Avatar dismantles capitalism.
Yeah, I mean, literally,
and makes socialism a thing. Like, it'll happen.
Right. It just sounds like not something they'll do, but
no, but it sets the bar, and now the bar is way too high. I still, like I said, I would still really want to see stories that don't necessarily revolve around an Avatar, and it could be a short, little 15-minute movie. I would also really like to see different styles of animation, as much as Studio Mir has also set the bar for me in terms of Avatar visuals. I know Mike, or I guess both of them, said that it's not going to look like Arcane or Spider-Verse, but that's my ideal scenario for anything Avatar related. It could be a 5-minute short.
Also, it could change.
That's true. They
this is just
change
right
their minds.
Now. Yeah.
I'm always going to be...
You're telling me Korra Future isn't going to look like the Spider-Verse?
That's what I'm saying, especially if she has to go to space, because it's going to be before 2022, and we went to space in the 60s, so it's going to happen.
Oh yeah, once you get past Korra, you can actually start doing space stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, she and Asami are gonna have a date on the moon.
Yeah.
Well, that's you.
Asami built them a rocket.
Korra volunteers to be first astronaut to go to the moon.
That's the exact kind of nonsense Korra would do.
She would, yeah. Literally, this is all in play once you get past the 20s, because again,
it is.
Yeah, because Mike and Brian established that the technology timeline of the Avatar world loosely mirrors our timeline.
Exactly. And then we can accelerate super fast because we have bending and magic, so it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
It's great.
Yeah, then they can go in. Especially when you get to the future, you can do whatever.
Just make sure America doesn't exist in this future.
Yeah, I mean, I think you would do the Earth Kingdom parallel if you want to comment on it.
Oh, yeah, true.
But, yeah, we could. You could also get into more modern parallels. Anyway, my last idea is make my Avatar Studios make my Future of the Air Nation miniseries, led by Jinora and Opal in their older forms.
So what are they gonna do?
Well, the twist, Aly, if you don't remember, is that they fall in love at some point when they're older.
Oh, I do remember that.
And they have different ideas for the future of their nation, but they're in love, and the drama.
So good.
How did I forget that? That was amazing.
And then Kai is in the middle of it because he's he's friends, and he's like, oh no.
He's an ally.
Kai and Bolin are there too, yeah. They're somewhere there.
Paco's just being a detective, who cares?
They'll make a Mako movie just to make us mad.
Probably.
Okay. Can we just take a minute though and imagine like a Korra detective movie would actually be really
Yeah, noir style Mako
It'd be
detective.
so good. Like I would be mad at it the whole time, but it'd be great.
I could see that. Yeah.
It would be great, actually.
I could see it. Okay.
Also, it could just be 20 minutes of Lin like smacking him, and I'd be sold.
How did it take you until now to say Lin?
I don't know. There was a moment earlier where I was gonna say it.
Have I not heard Lin out of your mouth?
I know. Well, I had a window earlier, and then it went past. I had to sneak it in right at the end.
You made it work.
Are there any other characters? Who have we not mentioned? Probably
too many. There's too many characters.
Tenzin. I mean, barely mentioned Tenzin.
We've mentioned him like twice.
You can't recast J.K. Simmons, can you?
No, you can't. That's impossible. You can't do that.
I feel like, I feel like they're not.
It has to be.
He'll still voice him though.
I'm still fine with the main characters being their original voice actors, but anything past that.
I mean, I would prefer that they recast it, but like.
But I'm fine with everybody staying.
That's the least of our concerns, given all the things we talked about. I think that's the one. Yeah. Any final thoughts on the Avatar Studios?
I'm hype.
Yes.
And also, I am also like nervous, but hype.
Are they? Okay. Do you guys think they're gonna have panels?
Oh god, like Avatar Con, like it's just their own.
No, just like panels at a con, like at SDCC. They're gonna have an Avatar Studios panel.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I need to start saving money then.
They were always at the cons, weren't they?
They still have the Avatar Legacy panel every year, right? So like I think that they'll.
It's just gonna be much bigger now.
Yeah, no, they'll get like this will be. I think this will be a huge movie if it comes out anytime soon. But of course, it's like if it's 2025, are people still interested?
I am.
Obviously, we are, but like, are the masses?
Casuals?
We'll buy out a theater, guys. That's what we'll do.
I'll buy out 10. It's fine.
Okay, all right, you win.
I'm hardcore, just with Avatar.
Okay, let us know any comments on our ideas for Avatar Studios and the Aang movie, and any thoughts you have as well in the comments. You'll find everything at overlyanimated.com. You can consider supporting us via Patreon at patreon.com/overlyanimated. Thanks to our current patrons, especially our patron of the podcast, Bob, and thanks to our patron executive producers, Steve, Michael, and Phonician. Also, check out a bunch of other current animated stuff we talk about. All that's at Overly Animated. We'll see when we're back to talk about Avatar. Maybe next time there's news. Who knows when that will be?
Prayers.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, it could be, and this is outdated, so we hope so. But yes, that's it. Thanks for listening, everyone. We will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.